Good morning, Who Dat Nation, and a happy Sunday morning to our Bayou Blitz family. I hope everybody is doing well out there as we head into Week 15 of the NFL season, with Christmas just eight days away, according to the elf on the shelf. I hope everybody is doing well out there. I am Bob Rose. I am one of your co-hosts to your Bayou Blitz pregame show. And unlike the New Orleans Saints, we are not quite as hobbled coming in to this Sunday's game against the New York Giants. So maybe Brendan Boylan and myself will get a halftime call, from Dennis Allen or Mickey Loomis to suit up real quick. I'm already in all black, Brendan. All I need is a helmet and shoulder pads, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I think I am too. So I guess we're all prepared. We're ready to get the phone call to run our two routes before our legs give out,
Right.
or hips or something. I don't know. Hopefully everybody's doing well today. This is an interesting one for New Orleans. Obviously, with where everything sits in the division, every game in order to make the playoffs becomes more and more crucial. And this game is right up there. But this is a Giants team that is on a roll with Tommy DeVito and coming into a New Orleans Superdome that's not as scary as it used to be, especially for rookie quarterbacks. So we'll see how the defense responds. But offensively, the Saints are going to be without two big pieces today, Bob.
Yeah, they are. Chris Olave, has been ruled officially out with an ankle injury that he sustained early this week. Ryan Ramczyk dealing with a knee injury. He has also been ruled out. Both of those players are on the inactive report, so they won't even suit up. Your other inactives are Kendre Miller, running back, Jake Haener, quarterback. Defensively, Isaiah Foskey out. Peyton Turner, designated to return from injured reserve, but will not play today. And then, of course, you have the injured reserve players that obviously won't play either. Wide receiver Michael Thomas, cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, safety Marcus May, and defensive tackle Malcolm Roach. I think that gets us caught up on the significant inactives for the New Orleans Saints today. It's a long and daunting list for sure.
Yeah, it's no longer the injury report. It's been the injury novel for the last few weeks. But the New Orleans Saints do get some reinforcements, but they're having to almost trade out those reinforcements with the injuries. So I don't know if it's quite a reinforcement, but Rashid Shaheed active today. He will give it a go. It's going to be the Rashid Shaheed and everybody else party when it comes to the receiving corps. Taysom Hill will be back for the Saints today. Expect a heavy dose of Taysom Hill in the run game for the New Orleans Saints against this Giants defense. So those are some big ones that you get back. And I'm a little surprised Shaheed is already back, especially after the reports that he may have had an injury that was a little bit more significant than originally reported. So it is nice to see Shaheed come back. However, Bob and I were talking about this in the pregame. Probably wouldn't be the smartest thing in the world to have Shaheed resume all of his duties as a returner, as a receiver. So I would not be surprised, and Bob certainly made the suggestion as well. Wouldn't be surprised to see maybe Lynn Bowden get some of the return duties, Taysom Hill potentially as well. So those are the things we'll look out for when it comes to the special teams unit. I think the biggest thing with this team right now, Bob, is what I just said, is it's not reinforcements, because it seems as if every time the Saints start getting guys back, they're swapping them out with injured players. So in a situation like this where you're going to be missing a top offensive lineman, a top maybe your best tackle, not just your best tackle, but one of your best linemen, if not your best lineman, you're missing your top two wideouts. And you have some injuries on the defensive side of the ball that are being filled by unproven players. When you go into this game that I mentioned is almost a must-win for New Orleans if they want to continue to find themselves in the playoff hunt in the NFC South, and not just the NFC South, but the wild card as well. Who would have thought that? Yeah, that's crazy. That is absolutely nuts that the Saints are still eligible for playoff contention for both the division and the wild card. But that's where we sit. With all those injuries piled up, Who are you looking to step up in this football game?
Wow. I mean, as you said, we don't know how healthy Rashid Shaheed is, only that he's going to give it a go. But he's certainly got to be a big part of the passing attack. Alvin Kamara has to essentially shoulder the load, not only as a runner, but they have to get him more involved as a pass receiver, more than just those -7 and -9, prayer screen passes. You have to get Kamara involved down the field, test that, New York Giant linebacking core, get them out of the tackle box. Because the Giants are a blitz-heavy defense behind defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. You hit them with some passes to Kamara, one-on-one in the open field. You hit the tight ends, Jimmy Graham, Juwan Johnson, Foster Moreau. I would not be surprised. Well, let me rephrase. If I were the offensive coordinator, I would involve the tight ends heavily in this attack. It gets the ball out of Carr's hands quickly. Again, it sets up one-on-one matchups with the New York Giants linebackers, and it hopefully will slow their blitzing scheme a little bit, especially with Ryan Ramczyk out, likely to be replaced by Landon Young, and because of that, because of Young in place of Ramczyk on the right side, I look for the Saints to run the ball with Kamara, Taysom Hill, and Jamal Williams more on the left side. That's a little bit of a flip from what the Saints usually do. They usually are what I call a right-handed running team. They love to run behind Ruiz and Ramczyk, and hell, who wouldn't? Would not be surprised to see that script flip today and see them focus their rushing attack more on the other side, behind Andrus Peat at left tackle and James Hurst at left guard. Irregardless, you have to design ways to get the ball out of Carr's hands quickly, but with Rashid Shaheed, you know that he could take the top off of defense. But with Olave out and Thomas out, Shaheed's got to be more than just a deep threat for this team. And I say that because, it's great that you have a guy to take the top off of defense to, loosen things up underneath. But when underneath you have got, an unproven guy like A.T. Perry, guys that we've seen been unable to get separation, like Marquez Callaway and Keith Kirkwood. Sorry, Brendan. But I mean, those guys have been unable to get consistent separation. So you have to use Shaheed, who, in my opinion, is an extremely underrated route runner. Get the ball to him on slants, wide receiver screens, things like that. In other words, don't have Derek Carr hold on to the ball too long. Whatever playmakers you have left, get the ball to them and let them do all the work.
You kind of said it best when you have the receiving corps that the Saints have at this point, and they tend to do this every year. Like, this isn't a new thing in New Orleans. Is maybe your top 3 or your top 4 guys are guys that are capable of, catching the football and making plays in space, and then the rest of them are either big body guys for the red zone, or guys that can block downfield well. Right, that has always been the script for the Saints, and they're kind of at the point with these injuries where you have Rashid Shaheed, Lynn Bowden is a guy who can make plays.
Yes.
And then you have the big-bodied guy in A.T. Perry, who has made plays for the Saints this year. And you have a big-bodied guy in Keith Kirkwood. But your big-body guys are really there for your run packages. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. When the Saints either bring in an extra lineman or bring in another tight end, and you literally have a 2-route, path like that. That's it. That is the pass there. That's the route tree. Is you have like a post route and an in, or a post route and an out route. I mean, it's nothing special, right? We all have seen those over the years in this Pete Carmichael offense. And frankly, as much as I like A.T. Perry, as much as you guys know I like Keith Kirkwood, coming from the same hometown, I don't really want a play action pass where A.T. Perry has to run a deep post and Keith Kirkwood's got to run like a 5-yard in, because I just don't think there's going to be a whole lot of separation, one. And two, for as long as we've watched this team and we know that's coming, you don't think other teams know that's coming?
Yep.
When they see that set, they're either going to hand the ball off in like a power I to whoever's the running back, or it's going to be this 2-route concept. I mean, that's a whole nother issue with Pete Carmichael. The fact that those plays have not changed in 15 years is a whole other issue. But you're right. It's going to be interesting, and you almost feel like you say it every week because of how vanilla this offense has been. How are they going to get Kamara involved in the passing game? How are they going to get the tight ends involved? Is Jimmy Graham going to be any more than the red zone target? He doesn't need to be, but the last few weeks has proved he needs to be a red zone target every week. He doesn't need to be involved in the rest of it, but as soon as you get inside the 20, you should be seeing number 80. I want to ask you about Ramczyk being hurt in this sense, and this is going a little off script, but I just find it interesting. This is not the first time the Saints have dealt with injuries to the tackle position this season. And you've already bumped Andrus Pete out to tackle from his guard spot. Pete had played right tackle in college. Are you surprised to see Landon Young get the go over Trevor Penning, who was your first round pick last season?
No, I'm not surprised. But believe it or not, Brendan, you are the first person to ask me that question. As we've seen Ramczyk's physical conditioning deteriorate during the course of the week. But it's a great question. Now, and you already know the answer to this because you and I have talked to Kyle Turley, several times, and we've heard it directly from Kyle himself. An all-pro at right tackle and left tackle during his career, that it is a night and day different. And a lot of fans don't understand this, and I get that. But the way Kyle explains it, it's a night and day difference between right tackle and left tackle. It's like asking someone to write a term paper. I'm dating myself, to write a term paper with your right hand and then do the exact same thing the next day with your left hand. Very, very few people on the face of the earth are able to do it. It's essentially learning a whole new position. Now, credit to Andrus Pete, who is excelled to some degree at several offensive line positions in his career. But to ask Trevor Penning now, who's clearly way behind his development, to flip over and play right tackle when he's never even worked out at that position for New Orleans in 2 years. That's asking for trouble. I'll tell you what's more telling to me is that I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, but Pete had to leave the game. He got nicked up. Pete had to leave the game for a period of time. And although he returned, while he was out at left tackle, Trevor Penning was not the one that replaced him. Landon Young was. And I think that's the more telling issue of the two, is that the Saints coaches have that little confidence in Trevor Penning to fill him in as a backup, as a short-term backup at the position he was drafted to play. So am I surprised Landon Young is getting the start at right tackle? Absolutely not. What I think the bigger question should be is, going forward now, how much have the Saints coaches soured on Trevor Penning? Are they ready to completely give up on him? And I'm talking again at left tackle, not the start at right tackle.
I agree. I think, and this is thinking well ahead, but I think when we get to the exit interview process, whenever that may be, whether that be because the Saints don't, qualify for the postseason or the Saints get knocked out in the postseason, that might not be a question you ask Trevor Penning directly is, hey, where do you feel like you're at in your progression in your process? But that is definitely a question that needs to be brought up to Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael, or, someone involved with the offense and the offensive line and the development. I mean, Jari Evans, I think, would be an interesting guy to talk to about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
One, because he's on the staff, but two, I know he never played the tackle spot, but that was a guy who was kind of the exact opposite, right? Like a later round pick that ended up becoming a valuable starter. So where would the thought process be for a guy who was a high first round pick, who 2 years in hasn't played but like 8 games? If that, I don't even know if he started 8 games to this point. It might be like 6 or 7. It might be under 8.
Yeah, it's in the neighborhood, but yeah.
I think that is an interesting. I don't want to call it a development, but it's an interesting thing to notice for the nth time this year. That Penning is not getting the opportunity, because my initial thought when Ram was getting knocked, showing that he got knocked and he may not go this week, was we'll flip Pete to right tackle, a place he's played before, and insert Penning there, or however you want to really make that happen. A little surprised, but I digress. Back to today's game against the Giants. Bob, we talked about it on Wednesday. The Saints offense against the Panthers, despite what the scoreboard said, was really, really hard to watch. It was another week where the offense didn't play well. And say what you will, the Panthers are a top 5 defense in the league in terms of yards. A lot of that has to do with the offense not moving the football, teams getting the ball deep. You don't want to call it, in Carolina territory, maybe not deep in Carolina territory, but starting drives closer to the 50 than the 25. Right. And that can skew the numbers a little bit and make the Panthers look better than they are. They do have a decent defense.
Yeah.
But the Saints made it look like they had a worldly defense. And that's not exactly what you want to do against a 1-11 or now 1-12 football team. How can the Saints improve against this Giants team that has some holes, but the Saints are going to try to expose those holes with a depleted offensive unit?
Well, first of all, I know everybody is most concerned about Olave missing this game, and I get why. I understand it. I'm more concerned, as I think you are, about Ramczyk missing this game. Not only the level of drop-off from Ram to Landon Young, but the fact that the Giants have a pair of terrifying edge rushers. Azeez Alajori, he's been often injured during his career, but he's healthy now, and he's an underrated athletic guy on the edge. On the other edge, last year's, I think, 5th overall pick, Kayvon Thibodeau, he is really coming into his own. New York only has 23 sacks. Thibodeau has 11 and a half of them, along with 12 tackles for loss, 14 quarterback hits, 12 pressures, 3 forced fumbles. You better believe that they're going to put Kayvon Thibodeau over Landon Young a lot. If Ramczyk was playing, they'd have probably put him over Pete because Pete struggles with athletic edge rushers. And oh, by the way, as I just said, Azeez has a terrific athleticism. So now you're talking about major issues at each edge, along with the fact that you have a load like Dexter Lawrence, who has 19 quarterback hits at defensive tackle, and the Giants love to blitz. I don't know if they're the top blitz percentage team, but they're definitely up there. So New York is going to pressure your backfield. If I'm the Saints, I get Alvin Kamara, I get Taysom Hill on the edge, because you're not going to be able to run up the middle. You would think that the Giants are going to leave Azeez and Kayvon and one-on-one battles on the edge, and when they do blitz, it's going to be on the inside, where the Saints have had loads of issues picking up stunts and twists on the interior anyway all year. So if they do that, they're probably going to do that on running downs too. So it would take an absolute maniac to run Alvin Kamara right up the gut. Get Kamara on the edge, force the Giants linebackers to abandon that blitz and defend your guys like Kamara, Taysom Hill on tight end screens, Lynn Bowden, Rashid Shaheed on wide receiver screens. Force them to get to the perimeter. Then you hit them with a quick slant to the tight end, be it Jimmy Graham, Juwan Johnson, if he can hold on to the ball, Foster Moreau. So again, quick rhythm. You got to go quick rhythm. You cannot let Carr hold on to the ball for any more than 2.5 seconds tops before he gets that ball out of his hands. So you have to design the routes to get a receiver free, so that way Carr has a legitimate look to get rid of the football. Now, if he still doesn't, that's on him. And that's a whole other issue that we've seen time and time again this year. But you at least have to make life easier on your quarterback. If he doesn't take that option, that's on him. You need to establish the running game somewhere where the Giants, they rank 29th in the league, against the run. So, that's where they're vulnerable. But again, you got to get to the edge. You got to run the ball right at Aziz, right at Thibodeau, right at their edge rushers. And that will also affect their pass rush. When you do go to a play action attack, and sort of delay them coming off of the edge as well. You got to take care of the football. That's a no-brainer in football. In a football game, we know that. But the Giants are on a 3-game winning streak. During that 3-game streak, they have 8 sacks and 12 turnovers. That's your difference in the game right there. You convert your third downs, you set up second and third and manageable, and you hold on to the football. You get the ball out of Derek Carr's hands quickly, and you establish balance early.
All those things sound great on paper. We went 20 minutes without saying on paper. That might be a new record.
Definitely for this season.
On paper, it sounds great. However, the one thing you said that I have no confidence in it happening is Derek Carr not holding onto the ball for more than 2.5 seconds.
Yep.
Whether that's by design or whether that's Derek Carr, as you said, that's a whole different issue. But I mean, you name dropped the whole Giants defense, and they're a good defense.
Yeah.
Dexter Lawrence is one of the best interior defensive linemen in the league. He's also really funny.
Yes.
If you've seen the mic'd ups and his intros to the games on Sunday Night Football, Sexy Dexy. He's really good. And he's going to make it really difficult for guys like Jamal Williams and Taysom Hill running the ball up the middle.
Yeah, and we didn't even mention Ashawn Robinson and Jihad Ward inside either. I mean, that's a good 3-man line that the Giants have.
Absolutely. Ashawn Robinson. Yeah. Well, and remember, Ashawn Robinson was a guy who was like highly touted coming out of college and bounced around, but has found like a good little home and being a little 1-2 punch with Dexter Lawrence in the middle. You got to get to the edge, like you said. And thankfully for the Saints in this one, that's where Alvin Kamara thrives. That's where Taysom Hill thrives. So there's going to be opportunities there. But the passing attack, and I'm going to go back to last week again. The passing attack was so bad last week. And again, anybody in the national media that says Saints blew out the Panthers or Saints handedly win, and like those things that you see, did not watch the game. Because going into like 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, the Saints had 34 passing yards. You have the one big one to A.T. Perry, and you have the pair of Derek Carr touchdowns. Great. But the passing attack stunk against a defense, yes, albeit top 5 in the league in terms of yards allowed, but not a very good passing defense, and was getting guys back and guys that had not played together consistently all year long. You're facing a Giants defense that, as Bob alluded to, has taken the ball away a lot the last 3 weeks. That's a big reason why Tommy DeVito's 3-0. I like Tommy DeVito. I think it's a fun story, but I don't think he's the guy that goes out and wins you a ball game, right? Has to rely on the defense giving him those opportunities. They've done that, and that's complementary football, something that people in New Orleans have not been familiar with in about 3 years. That's complementary football. And for the Saints, as I mentioned, the complementary football or the lack thereof complementary football between the passing game, the running game, it's been non-existent. So, Bob, again, yes, establishing a rhythm early at the run. Yes, attacking the places with your players where they're going to succeed. Extremely important in this game. But to get a passing attack going without a true number one weapon today, how do the Saints do it?
I love Rashid Shaheed, as you know, and I love him for more than just his deep abilities. I think that Shaheed has the ability to put up a Chris Olave or a Michael Thomas type of stat line. 6, 8, if he's healthy, 6, 8 catches, 130, 140 yards. He has that ability. And without a doubt, again, as we said from the onset of the show, you need to get Kamara involved on those option routes out of the backfield. You more than just a check down or a desperation Derek Carr pass after he's tried to hold on to the ball for 5 seconds, or a poorly executed screen that goes for a -5, -7, -9 yards. Kamara's the best pass receiving back in the NFL, maybe one of the best ones in NFL history. Use him. Use him. I mean, you shouldn't need to have Chris Olave and Michael Thomas sideline to know that Kamara provides you a mismatch against every defense you're going to face as a receiver. Use him. And again, with Olave and Shaheed and Bowden too. Bowden is extremely effective on those short, quick passes and wide receiver screens. Get the ball out of your flipping quarterback's hands. Make him release it early. Set up those routes, and you still have to have a clear out guy. Whether it's A.T. Perry, Marquez Callaway, one of those guys. You still have to use them down the field to take out at least one of the Giants' defensive backs. If they leave them unguarded, then so be it. You have then all of a sudden Monday morning we're talking about they hit A.T. Perry, Marquez Callaway, Keith Kirkwood on a deep pass that nobody saw coming because everybody expected it to be to Shaheed. You keep this Giants defense guessing. You keep them on their heel because they know going in, they like to throw the screen to Shaheed. They like to do it on Pete's side, but they wait too long to let it develop. We have to react to that. They like to use Shaheed as a clear out guy. They like to throw him 3, 4 deep balls a game. Okay. And I'm not saying you get away from that entirely, but you use those guys for other ways too. They have more than one skill set. That's what makes them so good, and that's what's made Pete Carmichael this year, the last 2 or 3 years, so bad. Is because he doesn't realize that it's very one-dimensional thinking. Again, football 101. You use your best players in roles that they perform best. Pete Carmichael has gotten a resounding F grade for that this year.
And last year.
And the year before, yeah.
It's been bad. It's been bad. Let's talk about Tommy DeVito and the Giants. Offense, then we'll do some dot or drop, and then we'll let the people go and get ready for the ball game. First off, Tommy DeVito's agent's at the Superdome, and he's wearing an all green suit with a green fedora. I mean,
Awesome.
It doesn't get much better than that. I love this whole Italian family storyline. I really do. It's fun. It's one of those storylines that probably won't last. But in like 15, 20 years, we're going to look back. Remember that kid, Tommy DeVito, and his agent? Like, you remember all that? It's going to be one of those stories, right? Again, I don't think Tommy DeVito is a guy that's going to go win you a football game. He's not, right? By himself. I just don't see it. And just because I said that, watch him do it.
Right.
I just don't see it. But what I do see is a guy who is very smart. He's a smart quarterback. He hasn't turned the ball over in 3 weeks. That's a huge reason why the Giants are winning football games. I see a guy who is athletic, and a guy where, and this happens every year, guys get passed on in the draft process every year. But you see this guy win 3 straight games. You see the way he's winning games, how he's protecting the football, and you go, I can't believe a guy didn't take a flyer. Nobody took a flyer on this kid. But here we are. And the New York, New Jersey local kid is playing for the New York Football Giants, winning football games. He's the best story in the NFL right now. But he's going up against a New Orleans team that is desperate for a win. He's going into a Superdome, albeit a Superdome that's not as scary, like I said earlier, as it used to be. But a rookie quarterback going into the Superdome, a hostile environment. And the Giants are still trying to figure out what they are, even with the injuries, some of the injuries they have. And remember, this is a team that could find themselves with a top 5 pick or a top 10 pick and has to make a decision at quarterback, but it's because I think the Danny Dimes experience is over for them. And I don't know if Tommy DeVito, if that's really the way you want to roll next year. So the Giants have a lot of evaluating to do, but Tommy DeVito is also playing for his NFL life
Yep.
um, today and for the next few weeks as well. Saquon Barkley's still one of the better running backs in the league when he's healthy, if not one of the best. The Giants have a lot of athletic weapons at wide receiver. And Tommy DeVito's taken advantage, even if the numbers haven't said so. And then DeVito himself, as I said, an athletic guy who ran for 70 yards on Monday night. Something the Saints have struggled with and got an F grade in this year, last year, the year before, and for as long as my memory goes.
Yeah.
What do you like about the Giants offense? What do you not like about the Giants offense? And where do you think the Saints can succeed?
I chuckled a little bit when you said that, Tommy DeVito is probably not the guy who's going to single-handedly beat you, with his traditional quarterbacking abilities. I chuckled because we said the same exact thing about Tyler Badgett and the Chicago Bears about a month or so ago, and it very nearly happened. Tommy DeVito is a similar type of player, as you said, a very smart guy. Very underrated athleticism. He just ran for 75 yards against Green and a victory against Green Bay last week. So obviously that's going to be a problem for the Saints. And the thing that you have to love about the New York Giants offense, even if you're critical, and they are an awful offensive team, Saquon Barkley is an elite talent. And what makes it most scary for Saints fans is the fact that Barkley is a big play guy who makes most of his plays in space, off tackle, and outside the numbers. That's exactly where the Saints have struggled this year against running backs, is outside the numbers. They're not, unlike last year, they're not getting gashed in the middle, play in and play out. They've actually played pretty good interior run defense. It's on those off tackle plays and on the edge where their age is showing, New Orleans age is showing, and once runners get to the second level, the safeties and Pete Werner and or Zach Bond are taking just such awful angles to the ball carrier. The plays that would normally be well blocked. Go for 8 yards if they're well blocked. They're going for 18 and 20 yards. That's a big problem this year. And they have to find a way to contain Saquon Barkley, make the Giants one-dimensional. Because if you do that, and this is what I don't like about the Giants and what has really caused them to be such a bad offensive team, they've given up 69 quarterback sacks this year. That is by far the most in the National Football League by, I think, 15 or so sacks. That's a big number. Now, they didn't give up a quarterback sack last week, which is shocking in and of itself. But even with Tommy DeVito's mobility, you have to pressure him. And I've said this the last couple weeks now. To me, when you have an older defense that's having trouble containing mobile quarterbacks, stopping athletic running backs from getting outside the numbers and off tackle, the best way to beat them is widen your defense out, widen those ends out, bring the safeties up in the tackle. When you do bring the safeties up in the tackle box, do so on the out, use one of them on the outside, and then bring in extra interior rushers. Not only should that get interior pressure into the quarterback's face when he does drop back to pass, that will also allow you to contain that said mobile quarterback if they break the containment. And if you use that same kind of idealism on to defend the run, it will cause a guy like Barkley to have to alter his path to get off tackle, widen his path to get outside. And that will allow your pursuit to catch up with him and perhaps seal him at the edge, or at least contain those bigger gains and shorten them by about 5 or 10 yards. That's the way I think that you should attack the Giants offense. And the Giants offensive line, outside of right tackle Evan Neal, who himself has been up and down this year, this is a run blocking unit, very poorly equipped to handle athletic and aggressive pass rush schemes. Now, we saw New Orleans use that a little bit against Bryce Young last week. We didn't see them use that against Miles Sanders, against the run with Miles Sanders and Chuba Hubbard. And the Panthers rushed for over 200 yards. And I think we said it on Wednesday's telecast. On those plays, and I love Miles Sanders, and you love Chuba Hubbard. But on those plays where Sanders and Hubbard broke free last week, those same kind of issues that Sanders and Hubbard would get 15, 20, 25 yards, Saquon Barkley's taking his 60 yards into the house. It's as simple as that.
You're absolutely right. And unfortunately, this is a game where you wish the Saints had a little bit more presence from edge rushers.
Yes.
Right? Like Foskey not being a go hurts a little bit. Peyton Turner not being able to go for this game hurts a little bit. Would love to see Zach Bond get some more run at defensive end or edge in a game like this because of his athletic ability.
I actually think we will. That's a good call.
Against this type of offensive line and a mobile quarterback, I think this could be a game where Bond actually is utilized well for the first time in his career. And you guys know, if you guys have watched and followed us over the years, I'm a guy that has said Zach Bond is not the issue. The way they use Zach Bond is the issue because he's uber athletic. There's a spot for him in the NFL that's more than special teams. It could be a guy who's mainly a special teamer, but has times like a game like this where you see a matchup and go, okay, that's going to work, opposed to going, let's play him at inside linebacker, a place that he didn't play in college and was not drafted for. Anyway, that's a whole nother rant for another time. I think this is going to be an ugly game. I think there's going to be big plays. Unfortunately, I think the Giants are going to have the better betting odds for the big play than New Orleans. But I still don't see this being it's probably going to be better than last week because, my Lord, I don't know if there's a game that could be worse than last week outside of the Minnesota and Las Vegas game that ended 3-0. I think it'll be a little bit better, but I still don't see this being really pretty. So with that, we move to Dot or Drop, which is something we haven't done in a couple weeks. So welcome back, Dot or Drop. I want to ask this one straight out, because to me, it's still a storyline. I think it should still be a storyline, even though it's not getting the same attention as it did 2 weeks ago. Dot or Drop. The Boo Birds come out the first drive for the third consecutive week.
Dot, because I don't see how you can have any confidence. Dot, if the Saints... No, Dot. Because if the Saints go on offense, for the first drive, I don't see how you can have any confidence in this unit. Even when fully staffed, fully armed, they've been abysmal. At worst, infuriatingly inconsistent at best. I'm going to stay Drop if the Saints come out on defense for the first drive, because while I think they have the ability to get a couple turnovers and to get a handful of sacks on Tommy DeVito, I don't have confidence that this Saints defense can stop Saquon Barkley and the running game. And I've said it for 8 or 10 weeks now. I don't think fans have been critical enough of the defense. We've heard all the criticisms of Dennis Allen, Pete Carmichael, Derek Carr for sure. The rest of the offense in general, definitely. I've not, up until the last 3 weeks or so, I've heard very little criticism of the defense. I felt like an island onto myself, with some of my articles. But this run defense has been horrible, and I'm afraid that Saquon Barkley is going to turn in something ridiculous, like a 200-yard day or something like that. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Drop or stick with Dot. The Boo Birds will be out in the Superdome, whether the Saints are on offense or defense the first drive.
Throw this up. Nick Underhill reporting that Bond is making his first start at defensive end today.
I see it.
So I guess I'm on the same page as Dennis Allen for once in my life. Before you get to your question for me, Glenn has a very, very well written comment here. He says, "Today is do or die for the Saints if Dennis Allen still has them unprepared, still making stupid penalties flat, no adjustments after halftime. Pete Carmichael's terrible play calling, red zone issues, and the season ends today, and hopefully his job." Amen, hallelujah. Like that is as accurate as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, as Chevy Chase said in Christmas Vacation, I'll spare you the language, but amen, hallelujah. Where's the Tylenol? Because that has been this season, this New Orleans Saints season. But even if they lose,
He's not getting fired.
he's not getting fired. Not during the season. He's not getting fired during the season. It's not going to happen. I know Saints fans want this. I know some ridiculous Saints fans are even rooting for losses so it happens. Be that as it may, I guess, but it's not going to happen during the season. And this is a huge game for both teams. The Giants are actually still mathematically alive in the wild card race, so they obviously need this win. The Saints, as you pointed out, they're not only still very much alive in the NFC South, but mathematically alive in the wild card chase. And they got a little bit of help with the Minnesota Vikings losing yesterday. And that's the thing. If they're going to stay in the wild card chase, they essentially need to win out and get help. But if they lose today, even if the Falcons beat the Panthers, even if the Buccaneers beat the Packers, and the Saints lose, the Saints are still mathematically alive. They're clinging, but they're alive. So the season, whether you want it to or not, does not end with a loss today. But I see the frustration, and if the Saints do indeed lose, especially if it's for all the reasons that you just pointed out, all the reasons they have lost games this year: unprepared, awful play calling, bad execution, zero ability to adjust on either side of the football, red zone issues. I mean, it's been a weekly refrain, time in and time out, even in games that they've won. So I think it's a very real possibility that they do lose today, and that would inch not only Dennis Allen closer to the end of the line, but that entire staff.
I agree. What's your question for me, daughter drop?
Daughter drop. And I kind of teased it earlier. Rashid Shaheed has a Chris Olave, Michael Thomas type of stat line: 6-8 catches, 130 plus.
Drop. I don't think he gets over 100 yards, and I don't think it's a Shaheed issue. I think it's just the offensive issue. I think, as we mentioned before, Ramczyk missing this game is extremely underrated for multiple reasons. And as I jokingly said, I don't have faith that Derek Carr is going to be able to get the ball out in 2.5 seconds, whether that's design or whether that's Derek Carr. I think Shaheed has a nice first game back. I don't see him getting over 100 yards. The only way he does is a deep ball that goes for 6, but I don't see that happening either. Daughter drop. The Saints defense forces the first turnover of Tommy DeVito's NFL career.
Because the one thing the Saints have been able to do is get turnovers, I think we talked about it on Wednesday that the Giants have some nice pieces in the receiving core, just not a true number one receiver. So I think that will give this New Orleans secondary enough confidence and enough intelligence to mix up their coverages, to bait Tommy DeVito into a couple bad throws, and they certainly have the ability to convert those throws, a bad throw or a bad decision, into a turnover. So yeah, I think the Saints get a couple of turnovers today.
All right, last one before score predictions, Bob. What you got?
Daughter drop. I'm going to stay on the defensive side. Even with a very hobbled Cam Jordan and a New Orleans pass rush that showed some signs of life last week, but still left a lot of sacks on the field. My daughter drop. New Orleans Saints get at least 5 sacks on Tommy DeVito today.
No drop. As bad as this offensive line is for New York, uh, like Tommy DeVito, I think, is going to put at least 50 rushing yards up on the board. His
Fair.
escapability is very underrated, right? And we say this a lot, when we compare athletic mobile quarterbacks, are they a Lamar Jackson type? Are they like a Justin Fields type? Are they like a Russell Wilson type? Like where do they fall in that category? Like DeVito's not a guy like Lamar where you're gonna draw up plays for DeVito to run. But he's a guy that's really slippery. He's gonna be able to get out of the pocket and make things happen. So no, the Saints don't get 5 sacks. And I mean, again, the Giants' offensive line's so bad, but the Saints' pass rush has been so bad. Will they get 2 or 3? Maybe. Do I see them getting 5+? I mean, that's a dream right there, Bob. That's a far-fetched dream, and to see this Saints defense get 5 sacks. And to your credit too, I mean, you've been one of the few that's harped on the Saints defense all year. That's Dennis Allen's strong suit, and they're not performing. So let's get into score predictions. Bob, I don't do this a lot. I like to pick the Saints in our score predictions. I really do. But this is a game I don't see the Saints winning. And again, it's not a good Giants offense. The Giants defense has holes. There are opportunities for the Saints to really get some things going. The dog does not like my score prediction.
I'm gonna throw that dog into the woods behind our house. I swear to God.
Nah,
Sorry, folks. Sorry, folks. She's lovable, but she's been nonstop today. I apologize for that.
Somebody else threw the comment. He said, like, we were talking about the Saints offense. I was like, yeah, talking about the Saints offense upsets the dog too. But I mean, I'm doing the same thing, so maybe there's a trend here. But no, I mean, this is a Saints offense that has shown me zero the last few weeks. Derek Carr is clearly not 100%. And as bad as this sounds, like the Giants are going to get opportunities to make those ribs and shoulder hurt a little bit more. They really are, especially with Ramczyk missing today's game and Carr not having weapons. I think it's an ugly one, but I think the Giants squeak this one out. And the Tommy DeVito, I don't even know what, it's not DeVito mania, but
it reminds me a lot of Jeremy Lin with the New York Knicks a couple years ago.
You said a couple years ago? That was over a decade, Bob.
Was it really? Wow.
A couple years ago. Whew. All right.
But the Knicks have been so bad for so long. They're like the Jets and the Giants. 1 year just blends into 10.
It is true. It is true. Well, to that point, and I love Jeremy for many reasons, but when COVID happened and there was no like live games, MSG, was like, okay, well, what do we want to play? What games do we want to play? And they picked the Linsanity era, and people were like, that's how bad they've been for a decade. Is that there's no other games to show. Like they have to go a decade into the archives to show that. Like it is this unprecedented New York City. I think it continues. I don't think he has like a stellar game, but I think it continues. I'm going to take the Giants 24-14.
Early in the week, well before we even had an idea that Olave and Ramczyk would be out, I had picked the Saints to win 28-16. It's not going to be that now. And I admittedly, before I say the pick out loud, I feel like I'm picking this more with my heart than my head. I do think Kamara can make some plays against the Giants defense. I think that they'll be able to establish the running game if they do it smartly. Defensively, I actually look for a big game from Brian Bresee, who just had a monstrous afternoon last week. Carl Granderson had a very good day too. And I think that I like the matchup that the Saints secondary has, especially Paulson Adebo, Alontae Taylor, Isaac Yiadom. against the Giants receivers. So I truly do think the Saints get a couple of turnovers. What scares me about the Saints defense, though, is as we've talked about, containing Tommy DeVito's legs and managing to contain Saquon Barkley. If they can do that, then I will still pick the Saints by a score of 21-16.
Take a touchdown off the board. Okay. 16 is a really odd number. How are they getting to 16, Bob? Is there a safety in there? There we go. Kayvon
Thibodeau sack of Derek Carr. That's one thing that we haven't seen is the Saints allow a safety because of poor pass protection and or idiotic decision making by the quarterback. So yeah, we'll go with a Giant safety.
Okay. I could definitely see it. I'm going to be completely honest, though, like going back to what I said earlier, like New York's going to get opportunities to hit Derek Carr. The last thing I want to see today, as much as some of you would hope this on a person, the last thing I want to see today is Derek Carr on the ground holding something again. Because the dude's taken a beating.
Yes.
I've never broke ribs. I don't know how painful that is. I've never had an AC joint sprain. I don't know how painful that is.
Well, you talk to your man. I've had them all. Broken ribs aren't painful at all, as long as you don't have to move, breathe, or laugh.
Oh, so extremely painful to play quarterback. Cool.
Very, yes.
Great. An AC joint sprain. I have no idea. But
again, not harmful at all, as long as you don't have to lift your arm or perform any motion across your body at all.
Oh, perfect. So like easy day for the quarterback.
Right.
Easy day. I don't want to see him on the ground like that again, because if it is, at that point you got to start talking about shutting down for the season.
Yeah.
And you know this as well as anyone as a former professional athlete. The more you harm something in a short amount of time, the more chance for like severe damage that could shelf you for a while.
Absolutely.
And don't want to see that. But the Giants will get their opportunities to hit them today. Well, guys,
and remember, Jake Haener is inactive, so Taysom Hill will be the emergency third quarterback if that's what it comes down to as well.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if we want Jameis chance again today either.
No doubt. We should have dropped that, but I think there's a good chance that we do.
I think that's a dot. I really do. But guys, thanks for hanging out with us today on the Bayou Blitz pregame show. We'll see if there's a postgame show. Just plan on it. Unless this thing goes really south. I don't know if you guys really want to hang out with us if this thing goes really south, but let's plan on it to be back. We'll throw it up. You guys are great that are here every week. You get your notification. You'll come in, hang out with us. But until then, I hope you guys enjoy your Sunday here in Charlotte. It's raining really bad, so it is an indoor watch football type of day. Hopefully you guys enjoy whatever you guys are doing across the U.S. and potentially across the world. So until the post-game show, Bob, don't break anything.
No promises.
That goes for a couple different things. Household objects, the dog. Oh, did I say that out loud?
I javelined the Christmas tree one year. This was many years ago. So nothing is safe around me if my football team is playing poorly.
Nothing is safe around Bob Rose. Keep that in mind the next time I'm in the Pennsylvania area. But until the postgame show, guys, enjoy your Sunday afternoon. Who dat? And we'll see you here in a little bit.